A devastating loss for the Utah Hockey Club to the Detroit Red Wings. We're going to talk about it on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I am veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño. We are your dynamic duo for talking about the Utah Hockey Club. Thanks for making the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast your first listen each and every single day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Robyn, I'm going to share with you a story from my time with the Nashville Predators. I had never actually heard this phrase until it was introduced to me by another dynamic duo, Pete Weber and Terry Crisp. Now, if you've been around the NHL for longer than 30 seconds, you know both of these guys. But they, when I arrived in Nashville on the radio side, were the TV crew, play-by-play and color respectively. Crispy's won cups as a player. He's won a cup as a coach with Calgary in '89. And Pete is a veteran broadcaster who spent, we're talking what now, 4 decades calling professional sports. So I have a lot of respect for these guys, but they introduced me to a phrase I was unfamiliar with. It's called polishing the turd. And sometimes, Robyn, the concept is when things are bad, but you work for the team, you know it's a turd. You can clearly see it. You can smell it. Everybody knows it's a turd, but you got to polish it, right? You got to make it look as nice as you possibly can. And I felt like even listening a little bit to the post-game reaction, and I think maybe the next day or two we might hear a little of it. Certainly not. I don't expect Andre Tourigny when we hear his post game to be that guy, because he's generally not. But Robyn, I retired my polish cloth long ago, and I don't have good things to say about this game.
I'm with you. This was like a bad game, all like no matter which way you slice it, Tom. And we have talked about a couple of different things. One, the inconsistency of this team, and it's interesting because you will have a team that will only a couple days ago play up and actually play much better than we expect against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then play in, I don't even know what to call it, against the Detroit Red Wings. And to me, it's like, are they playing to their competition? Because it seems that like they expected to play down against Detroit. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a reason why it was a complete 180 from what we just saw over the weekend.
So let's go ahead and talk about the potential excuses, because we're going to hear them. And I'm not saying they're coming out of the locker room, but probably from the media cadre that is going to try to explain this one away. Number one, bad breaks and bounces, of which there were a couple.
Yeah.
One goes in off Krause's shin pad. One is an absolute blooper. It was an ephus of a goal. And if you don't know the ephus, look up Rip Sewell in the ephus pitch, because there's a great history to that. But I've already told one story, maybe another time. But Robyn, I understand. But that first goal, the first shot of the game for Detroit, odd man rush and a missed coverage and the puck's in the back of the net. And maybe you should have suspected something at that point. And they had a backup goaltender in there who was not ready to start. Mrazek made it a $136 into the game, went out with an injury. Now Alex Lyon gets tossed in there. The last time Lyon played was the last time Detroit played Utah. And he didn't have to shine. They never effectively put the pressure on. The power play went 1 for 5 tonight. And they had 5 chances, could have been better against the league's worst. Robyn, they're not even 70% on the penalty kill, Detroit. They're terrible. They're dead last in the league, 69 and change coming into this game. Awful. Utah did not execute anything that would have convinced me they're a playoff team. Whereas one game previously, they did everything that would have convinced me they're a playoff team. And to your point, consistently inconsistent, this is not a playoff team yet. When they play this varied from one contest to another, I cannot see it. And that's fine. I didn't think they'd be there anyway this year. So I'm not mad that I'm like the parent, right? I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the kind of the gist of it, Tom. And I mean, I think, I will mention that consistently inconsistent like a broken record, because to me, we'll see the flashes, right? We'll see what they can be capable of, but then they'll go turn around and put a huge turd, right? And I think that's what the disappointing thing happens. And sometimes they'll come in like a bigger wave, right? It won't be a single game 180 like we saw between the game against Tampa and this game against Detroit. We'll see a 7 to 10 game stretch where they play what looks to be pretty well, and then they'll have like a couple of games in which they kind of play mediocre. Maybe it's a steady decline or whatever. But I complete 180, and I think and to me, yeah, disappointed it would be a right term, but I also feel frustrated because, and again, it's because of seeing the flashes, because what this team is capable of, that when they throw a game, whatever, like I said, whatever you want to call this game against Detroit, it makes me question everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. It's tough. It is absolutely difficult to try to figure out so much of what happened. That's why the first bullet on here is frustrating loss. It is frustrating. And it's frustrating. Like this team, we look at the scoring summary, they got out first, 346, and it was a power play goal. They scored on their first power play opportunity, and it looked good. It was a crazy
nice
pass
goal
by Keller.
too.
Holy cow, that pass by Keller. No look, cross ice to the dot. Gunther one-timer. I'm like, yes.
That's how Gunther does it. He's a sniper, and we love it. I mean, I thought I was going to be excited. I was going to get ready for for like at least a half decent game.
I thought they were going to roll at that point. But then, as I mentioned, the first goal, Soderblom, odd man rush. And Tarasenko actually made a nice pass. I expected Tarasenko to try to shoot. But the pass over, and okay, now we're tied at 1. We get out of the period, we're tied at 1. I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to, because we've seen Utah kind of heat up. Sometimes first periods are bad, sometimes second periods are bad, but we know generally third periods are good. And so I'm feeling they're going to come back. No, Detroit 2-1 after 2. And then they score 3 times in the third. One was an empty net goal, but it was goal number 4. And then they scored again with the goaltender back in. And here's the other thing I want to talk about, Robyn, is this third period, even hearing like the calls of the goal and listening to you could feel it in the crowd. I could see it in the body language on the bench. It almost felt like in that moment, in that period, the last 10 minutes of the third period tonight, everybody realized all at once the playoffs have evaporated as a hope for this year. I just felt that. No one said it, but that was what I felt watching the last 10 minutes of that game. It just, everything around me that I was taking in, it just felt like the air was let out of the balloon.
It definitely seemed like I guess I wouldn't say the throw in the towel in their mind, but I think the term would be just they ran out of gas. You could feel it. They could feel that they ran out of gas. They had And again, as I said, they have this team has its waves, but they still held along and came pretty close for a decent chunk of this year. But they didn't have enough in them to get to that level and to get to where we want it. What I was hoping to see, which would be at like just on the outside looking in, rather than a couple extra steps down.
Here's part of the thing, Robyn, right? So we look back at this game, we look back at this homestand. At the end of the homestand, 2-1 is pretty good for the 3-game homestand. That's what we wanted. And we expected the loss to be Tampa Bay and the win to be Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Those are reversed. But if you're going to set the bar higher by beating Tampa Bay, and you really do it, and they did, coming out of that Tampa Bay game, I felt good about their chances. Although St. Louis is on fire right now. We'll talk about that later in the show. But I felt good. But then, and this is what destroys me about it, is this game, and even with a backup goaltender, you manage 18 shots. That's not good enough. You went 1 for 5 on the power play. That's not good enough.
What astonishes me about that, Tom, is, and I think Utah, I think a decent portion through the second period, it was at 15 shots. It was like 15 versus 5 shots or something like that. It was way skewed.
14-5 after 2 periods of play.
Yeah, 14-5 shots through 2 periods of play. Like if you saw what the score sheet would have been, your assumption would have been that Utah would have been in the lead. But no.
Detroit was shooting 60% at that point, Robyn. Goals on 3 of 5 shots. Yeah. All right. We do need to take a very quick break, but we're going to get back on this train. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on with the race, what's going on around this Western Conference wild card, and a couple other points I want to talk about in this game, because there were some other things that I took away from it, and I know Robyn's got thoughts too. Believe me, we had a very long pre-show chat today. So, all right, stay tuned. And today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Hey, March Madness is here. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know this. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can bet $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. So, I'm not going to lie. I like to pick the underdogs. I like to look into that. FanDuel makes it easy to back them up because of the spreads, the totals, the game props. You can buy in to those underdog stories. And with tournament games happening pretty much every day, there's always something exciting going on. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. And today's show also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells. It's a perfect grab and go snack, whether it's a busy day, snacking at my desk, on the go, road trips, which I take a lot of, or I just need a quick protein boost. That's my go-to. And if you like the crack of the shell, the in-shell options, those are an absolute classic favorite. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño back here with you. Frustrating loss, 5-1 to the Detroit Red Wings. Robyn, I want to look at a couple of the numbers here. As we talked about earlier, shots were only 18-14. Utah did not capitalize on facing a backup goaltender. Mrazek, as I said, got hurt a minute 36 in, and Alex Lyon had to come in, who hasn't played since 3 weeks ago. You go 1 for 5 on the power play. And after the way the first power play looked, I thought, okay, this is going to be good. But they didn't really do anything. They did well in the face-off circle. Giveaway takeaways, 22-9. Those are The takeaways are actually kind of high for both teams. Hits, they were out hit by Detroit tonight. And that's one of the things that bugs me about this slide as well, that if you're on the YouTube side, you can see we've got the stats up. Utah, and again, we talk about identity, right? The identity of this team is it's supposed to be built, and Bill Armstrong says this over and over. I want a big team. I want a tough team. I want to be able to play defense. I want to be able to take it to people. I didn't see that tonight. You know what can change the course of a hockey game and bring the energy back into a hometown crowd? A big hit or a fight or anything. Make something happen. Sometimes you got to spend 2 minutes in the box and just drop a big hit on a guy or get in somebody's face. And even if they don't fight and you get an unsportsmanlike or you get a roughing for it, the crowd's into it. It can fire up your team and get them going a little bit. I didn't see that tonight.
No, you're absolutely right. And can you make an argument of whether or not that played a factor into the loss? Yeah, you could. You very well could. Because to me, I felt like I talked about feeling the energy, right? And then, again, I'm not saying Delta Center wasn't loud and they weren't into it. They weren't into it, but
well, they were till the third.
Yeah, they were. They still gave a lot of effort. I felt like they did a great job, but to me, I felt like just it still falls on the team to match the energy, to match that level of feeling, and I just didn't feel it.
Yeah, it was definitely absent tonight, and that's, again, it's frustrating. I mean, even if you're just team tough, I'm not saying you got to have a line brawl, but I'm saying team tough. Make something happen and let the dynamic guys be the dynamic guys, but somebody's got to be the straw that stirs the drink. And I will say this, they do miss Liam O'Brien.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough injury to deal with because I really felt like he is, I don't feel like he is a heart and soul guy. Like they miss him. And that hurts, but someone's got to pick up the mantle, and it just, I don't know. This is a weird game coming off it. There are just so many things. Looking over the stat sheet, I'm scratching my head at almost every category. I really expected them to hit more. I expected them to shoot more. Nick Schmaltz had 4 shots, and he's out there trying. I know he is, and he actually got robbed in this game, I thought. But Dylan Gunther, 3 shots, 5 attempts blocked, 3 missed shots. So he's firing the puck, and he should be firing the puck. But that's about it, right? I mean, McBain, 5 hits tonight. Ian Cole, 4 hits. And then a couple of guys with 3, like Kesselring, Krause, and Sergachev had 3 hits tonight. But I need those numbers to be higher. And McBain is a good guy to try to lead by example. But again, Robyn, I just felt like there was a life and a spark that is there for playoff teams that isn't there for Utah. It wasn't in this game anyway. And now they got a couple days off to think about it and maybe get a practice in there. I actually think they're leaving tomorrow. So they'll have a day in Florida to get acclimated to the time change, get on Eastern time. And then this is a tough back-to-back, Tampa and Florida. This is, Robyn, I don't often want to make dire predictions, but let's face it. The way the standings are, I think if you don't come out of there with some points, that might be it. Especially not getting 2 points or any points tonight against Detroit.
I mean, yeah. Utah's chances are already extremely slim. I checked Money Puck, by the way. So you don't have to. Right now, because of that loss to Detroit, Utah's chances of making the playoffs stand currently at 5.45%. So, which again, it's a non-zero. It's a non-zero chance, so it means it's
correct.
Still there. Everything has to go right for them, and for that to happen, you have to one, it's win games, but also 2, you have to really hope that St. Louis loses steam, that Calgary loses steam, that Vancouver doesn't pick back up.
Well, Nostradamus has already seen that Vancouver will fall out, so I'm not worried about Vancouver. It's just cooling off St. Louis, and they have such an easy schedule down the stretch. Man, I hate to say it, but it's just everything's lining up for St. Louis to make it at this point if they don't fall apart. But Robyn, we do have a key road trip to look ahead to, so let's do that here in just a moment.
And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers and the hardware, maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. It's Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. It really just makes ticket shopping easy. I just checked the Game Time app, and there are some amazing deals and some huge matchups coming up. Maybe you're a Jazz fan and want to go ahead and watch, the end of their season. Maybe depending where you're a college basketball fan and you want to go ahead and watch some amazing college, March Madness. It's around that time. I know I know BYU's in the Sweet 16. If I have any BYU fans out there, maybe you're gonna go ahead and travel to the regional and catch some tickets there. Game Time makes it easy to be able to get those kind of tickets with their peace of mind. Seat views before you buy, so you don't have to get surprised by where the seat might be. No surprise fees and a lowest price guarantee where you can book a total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Robyn, I had to look up where that Alabama BYU game is being played. They're in the East Regional, so
so they're in Arizona's bracket.
Yeah, so just throwing that out there.
So you're telling me if Arizona gets past Duke and BYU wins, could be in for
it could be in for some fireworks here. We shall see. We shall see. But all right. So as we come back here, you know what? I was going to ask you a question. I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Robyn, who is the coolest person, celebrity, whatever you have ever seen at a sporting event?
Ooh.
Or do you have any good stories of a? Because I'm thinking I've seen a bunch, but what's
there
the
are
cool
some
story?
there are some good ones. And are you talking about one that I've been to?
Yeah, like you've seen in person.
That I've seen in person.
Yeah.
This is gonna be really I think this is gonna be a really interesting one, but let's see. I'd have to. It's not on the top of my list, but it's the first one that comes to my mind. I'm trying to remember the exact date it was, but it was when Arizona played ASU in Tempe. I'm blanking on his name now for some reason. I'm blanking on his name, but you'll know what you know when I describe who I'm talking about. It's the guy who goes who essentially is the MC for major fights and says, "Oh, in this corner,
Michael Buffer."
There we go. Yes, and he announced the starting lineup for the Sun Devils in that game, and I was like, "Okay, I may be a Wildcat, but that's cool."
That would be pretty cool. Can you imagine somebody like Morgan Freeman announcing your starting lineups?
That would be,
or just like somebody, or like the movie trailer guy in a world, like where the Utah Hockey Club takes to the ice, something like that. That'd be pretty cool. Man, I have the cheater stories because in Nashville we had celebrity season ticket holders. So, and I've seen everybody at those games like Carrie Underwood, Taylor Swift, Vince Gill, and Amy Grant were season ticket holders in Nashville. But one of the other random sightings I had, I ended up sitting, and I didn't even really realize it at first. Jack White, White Stripes, Dead Weather, all that. He loves baseball, and I went to a Nashville Sounds game when they were over at the old Greer Stadium, and Jack White was just hanging out 3 rows in front of me. And I didn't even right away realize who he was, but then I saw his jersey and I'm like, who's wearing the Roy Hobbs jersey from The Natural? Jack White. So that was actually kind of cool. But yeah, that I've
will
been
say
to
the majority of mine do come from covering college basketball because I've traveled. For those that don't know, before I became a hockey reporter, I was a play-by-play for the U of A student radio, and I kind of went around for U of A college basketball. So I was in Vegas for the Pac-12 tournament when that was a thing.
Nice. That's the celebrity settings. Okay, so we need to get back around to this road trip.
Yeah.
We do like to pause and tell stories though, because it keeps it fun, it keeps it light. But here's what's coming up for the Utah Hockey Club. So now, as I mentioned, they're traveling tomorrow on a Tuesday, the 25th, which is the day you're getting this pod. And they're going to head to Florida. And then a couple of 5 p.m. Mountain Time starts Thursday at Tampa Bay, Friday at Florida, day off on Saturday, which will be a travel day up to Chicago. And then a 2 p.m. Mountain Time matinee effort against the Blackhawks. That'll wrap the month of March. They come back home for a 5-game homestand after that. But Robyn, I almost feel I don't want to put this pressure on the team. I really don't. But does anything less than 6 points get it done?
No. Utah needs to be perfect through the stretch.
And it's a hard stretch to be perfect.
It is an incredibly hard stretch to be perfect. And it is a massive ask, no matter who you're talking about. But in order for Utah to have a fighting chance, because we're assuming that there's things that everything isn't going to go their way, that all the other teams aren't just going to lose 3 games straight, 4 games straight, whatever it is that they have coming up as well. Utah needs to be perfect.
They do. They have 11 left. They have 75 points. So here's how we get into the magic number math, or tragic number, as Robyn has said. Essentially, you take the remaining number of games and you multiply it by 2. That is your maximum total points. So at this point, with 11 games left, 22 points, 22 plus 71, 93. So Utah will be locked out if anybody gets to 94. Every time you lose, your total possible points goes down, whether it's by 1 point or 2 points. And so that also decreases your number. St. Louis right now has 72 games played, so they have a chance at 20 more points. They could get to 101. They're at 81 right now. So the gap with everybody done on a Tuesday night and looking at everything in the books, it's St. Louis, 81 points, Vancouver, 78, Calgary. By the way, only 69 games played for Calgary still, 77 points. And Utah Hockey Club, 71 games played, 75 points. So, Robyn, the window is closing. It is not shut. But I think, just in the interest of being honest with Utah Hockey Club fans, I don't think anybody here has any illusions about how good this team needs to be down the stretch. Can it be done? Sure, it can. Absolutely. But they got to start winning some games. And this was a huge blown opportunity tonight against Detroit.
If you want to know, according to my other website, their tragic number right now is 9.
That makes sense. So they can get to 93. They might not then have. Well, no, they can get to. Let's see. Yeah, 93 points is their max. St. Louis is at 81, so that's 12. And I don't know who has the tiebreaker. So St. Louis would need 13 points to for sure lock out the Utah Hockey Club. But you know what? Maybe that's because of Calgary. Because Calgary has those 13 games left, so they could get 26 points onto the 77. That might make sense. So they could go to 103. So maybe that's why. But I don't know who's got the tiebreakers, Robyn. But as I said,
we'd have to kind of look into all the other.
Yeah, you really, I mean, if you're Utah, you just need everything to break the right way. You need every team in front of you to fall apart, and you need to win. You need to win games. So this is not a bad season, no matter if this is where they finish or not. They're currently in that fifth overall for the wild card, so 3 spots out of the wild card, which is really 11th. I had hoped to see them at 9, and they still may get to 9. To me, that was a step forward, but now, Robyn, here's what is interesting to me. Okay, Utah Hockey Club, you had a clunker, and it was a bad time to have that clunker.
How do you respond?
Exactly.
When we've seen it happen, we've seen Utah after a really bad game, they respond with a really good game. Utah's a very rope-a-dope kind of team. It's annoying, but that's how they are. We all know this at this point.
Yeah. There's no mystery here. This is what they are capable, but they're capable of it, right? They have weapons. They have good goaltending. They have solid defense. Like, this is not a talent poor team. They have depth. They have talent and capability.
Yeah,
we just need to see it for the rest of the year.
We really will. And I mean, if it's not for the rest of the year, I will say, no matter what, I'm still hopeful this team will, they will be better.
Yes, absolutely. Because even the experience of having just a healthy decor together is invaluable. So that is absolutely for sure. All right, Robyn, I want to hear from our listeners, our viewers. I want them to reach out to us. What are your expectations for the rest of the season? What are your expectations for the road trip? Want to hear from you guys on social media or in the comments here on the YouTube side. By the way, please subscribe if you're still here. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it really helps both of us out when we're trying to find great, engaging hockey content. We really appreciate that. But Robyn, if they want to tell us that we're out of our tree and Tom is too negative, where should they do that?
Yeah, they should be able to find us on social media, but primarily on X at LO_NHL Utah. You can find me personally at Robyn_Leaño. I'm also on Blue Sky at Robyn Ice Time.
And I'm at Tom Talks on Blue Sky, at Callahan on air on Twitter. And Robyn will be far more sympathetic to you, I think. That's just the vibe I'm getting. So Robyn is the chill half of this show. Tom is the one who lights the fireworks and then throws them in the room and watches as everybody scrambles. And Robyn's the one going, everybody calm down. It's just fireworks, and it's just Tom. So
I will say you make a funny point, because in my hockey league, out of a lot of the captains, I have been referred to as the diplomatic one. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it. I'm just like, all right, let's just take a step back real quick. That's the way I am. That's where I try to be, at least.
Nice. That I'm sure that will pay off. I'm sure that will pay off with calls or non-calls at some point. So,
hey, I've got a really good relationship with the refs. So.
Refs are human too. They're
really nice people.
Yeah. There you see. Look at that. Look, even on the podcast, always lobbying. Always. I love it. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please let us know what you think. Coming up for this road trip, we're going to have continuing coverage all week long on where this team's at, what they're hoping to do. And I'm interested to get into the post-game reactions of just about everybody over the next couple of days and see the wide swath of opinions. So we look forward to doing that as well. So for Robyn, I'm Tom. We appreciate you very much, and thank you for listening or watching the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.